special episode for you guys today. While many games are certainly philosophical, very few are as effective at integrating philosophical concepts into the plot as BioShock. Not only is the BioShock trilogy a pioneer of gameplay, mixing elements of survival horror, RPGs, and FPS games, but it also flaunts a level of intellectual sophistication rarely seen in games. Welcome to this special episode on the philosophy of BioShock. Oh, and viewers, keep in mind, we are skipping the second game. Who is John Galt is the cryptic question posed in Atlas Shrugged, the most famous book by Russian-born thinker Ayn Rand. Similarly, who is Atlas posters adorn the wall of Rapture, transforming the original question of Rand's work. In the book, John Galt, engineer, genius, and heartthrob, encourages a strike of the mind, where all the world's industrialists are encouraged to leave their roles in an increasingly controlling, regulated, and rule-driven world. Frustrated with the inefficiency of socialism and its lack of care for the individual and their hard work, Galt retreats to Galt's Gulch in order to shut down the industrial motor of the world. The original BioShock takes place in Rapture, a digital homage to Galt's Gulch, in which all the world's best minds were brought together under sea by one man, Andrew Ryan. The name Andrew Ryan is effectively an anagram for Ayn Rand, more or less. Andrew Ryan's political philosophy is lifted right from Rand's concept of objectivism. Objectivism is a sort of guide to living a worthy life. Its main tenets are reality, reason, self-interest, and capitalism. Basically, Rand believes that reality is concrete and objective. There's no point in talking about the mystical, divine, and supernatural as guiding forces for humanity. Actions should be determined solely on the basis of intellect. An easier way to say this is that Ayn Rand is an atheist, and apparently, so is Andrew Ryan.
I believe in no God, no invisible man in the sky. But there is something more powerful than each of us, a combination of our efforts, a great chain of industry that unites us.
Andrew Ryan serves as a mouthpiece for Rand's condemnation of coercive governments in favor of a society based in radical self-interest.
But it is only when we struggle in our own interest that the chain pulls society in the right direction.
Rapture was founded under the belief that the communist parasites in the world above were freeloaders that stole, violated, and unjustly took from the captains of industry. Ryan was tired of working and not getting what he deserved, just like Galt.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers.
Also like Ryan, Rand was a proponent of laissez-faire capitalism, or the idea that a good government exists only to protect individual rights and stays out of people's personal lives and the market.
Welcome to the circus of value!
Similarly, in the world of Rapture, the plasmid market is severely underregulated. The belief is that the unfettered market provides the best option for consumers.
There has been tremendous pressure to regulate this plasmid business. There have been side effects, blindness, insanity, death. But what use is our ideology if it is not tested? The market does not respond like an infant, shrieking at the first sign of displeasure. The market is patient, and we must be too.
So what went wrong? Does the ruinous state of Rapture suggest that a society run by such tenets is doomed to fail? Or did Ryan pervert Rand's beliefs? This is where Atom comes in. Atom is a resource so potent that it led to a civil war between Ryan and Fontaine, or Atlas. Due to Ryan's ideals of a free market economy, Atom was completely deregulated, creating a population of addicts riddled with side effects, resulting in rampant chaos and instability. Or perhaps Ryan simply misused Rand's philosophy. Using the Little Sisters as mules for magical sea slugs to create Atom certainly treats them as mere tools for your own goals, and Miss Rand would certainly disapprove. Now let's be clear, the trendy discussion on BioShock Infinite has something to do with quantum entanglement and multiverses, and while it's a great discussion, it's already been covered ad nauseum. We're going to abbreviate the discussion because, well, science is hard. The third installment of the BioShock series moves from the underwater world of Rapture to the floating city, Columbia. A play on the United States Capitol, Columbia is a sort of floating Eden founded by a man named Zachary Hale Comstock. Comstock is a fictional stand-in for a 19th century New York political figure, Anthony Comstock, famous for his fight against obscenity and his rather prudish values. The Comstock character mirrors Anthony's public feud with noted anarchist Emma Goldman, who is doubled by Daisy Fitzroy. Comstock founds Columbia with the promise of providing a place for God's people, apart from the world of sinners and the Sodom below.
And so our prophet led the people away from the Sodom below, up into the city, where they created an even more perfect union.
This image of Columbia as a shining beacon in the sky has its philosophical justification in the concept of American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism is the belief that the New World was promised to God's chosen people. And through this philosophy, BioShock Infinite provides us with a tasty satire of America's historical landscape. American exceptionalism is a way of justifying a particular lifestyle. Columbia, like America, is considered God's country. Forgiveness of sins, salvation, and baptism are all religious themes in Infinite. But like its predecessor, this game explores the dark side of this philosophy.
I baptize you in the name of our prophet, in the name of our founders, and the name of our Lord.
Similar to Comstock's Columbia, the expansion into the new frontier was justified as a mission from God, to ensure that the New World doesn't backslide like the Old World sinners of Europe. America was to be a land populated by exceptional, chosen people, exempt and above the rest of the world. Secularized as manifest destiny, American exceptionalism justifies and demands the extermination of the indigenous people of the wilderness, aka Native Americans, for the sake of securing the national identity of the Christian settlers. Those not willing to accept Christianity were forcibly moved or eliminated. American exceptionalism is not just a question of land. The ideology of this philosophy is inextricably woven into the fabric of history. Slavery, labor strikes, the abuses of the Irish and Chinese workers who built the American railroad system are all justified by the lofty goal of a promised city for God's people. Fearful of the anarchist vox populi, afraid of the Irish and Chinese threat, and scared of racial mixing, Columbia is a paranoid place.
Why is one bathroom for colors and the other for whites?
It just is.
Seems like an unnecessary complication.
Infinite explores America's haunted past. The Battle of Wounded Knee, which is considered the end of the US and Indian Wars, is heralded. Laws enforcing racial segregation and lynching are not just the norm, they're commonplace.
Hello, sir. Don't you pay me no never mind? Just some foolishness, you know. Just monkey shines.
Perhaps this is why the enemies in the game are robotic George Washingtons called patriots.
Come on, folks. Show your allegiance to flag and to the nation.
Please don't do this.
It was me. It was all me. Please. Please. Please, what are you doing?
Come on. Are you gonna throw it? Or are you taking your coffee black these days?
With BioShock Infinite, we get the prospect that the hero, Booker DeWitt, is simultaneously the villain. BioShock exposes the paranoia of an us versus them dichotomy. It challenges our conception of good guys and bad guys, of freedom fighters, revolutionaries, dictators, and terrorists.
Kill little sisters or save them. Throw a ball at an interracial couple or at the racist announcer. Accept or reject the baptismal forgiveness of sins. One of the essential dilemmas of BioShock is the freedom of action, choice, and free will. For those of you that don't know me, my name is matpat, and I run a channel called The Game Theorists. Thanks a lot to Wisecrack for having me on today, and that being said, let's get into it. This is the importance of choice and free will in BioShock. In the first BioShock, we're told, quote, Andrew Ryan reminds us we all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us, end quote. So, if we make choices, we must be free. But then again, if our choices make us, then how can we be free to make them? This conundrum leads us to the question, is free will even possible? One school of thought, known as hard determinism, suggests that there's no such thing as free will. If all action can be boiled down to cause and effect, then all of our actions are always bound by an external force. Even you, dear viewer, may think you're free to click off this video right now. now. But keep in mind that if you do, there's a reason you're doing so. So the question is, are you truly free in your actions? Or are your actions a result of a series of events that you had nothing to do with? Our choice in our actions is merely an illusion. Andrew Ryan reiterates this with the phrase,
"A man chooses, a slave obeys."
In what is perhaps the most brilliant part of the original game, Andrew Ryan makes a statement on the nature of gaming itself, and how you, as a gamer, are destined to mindlessly follow the fixed path of the game's narrative. And interactivity, or the idea that you have any bearing on how the game will turn out, is merely an illusion. BioShock Infinite presents a possible way out of the problem of free will, the multiverse, an infinite number of worlds to choose from. The fact that Booker's able to go back and choose not to be baptized, to smother baby Comstock in his crib, seems to be a way out of the deterministic universe.
That's the only way to do it. Go back to when he was born, and I'll smother the son of a bitch in his crib.
Except that this very choice isn't a real possibility. Even when it seems that there is choice for the player, the game hints at the problem of free will. The first choice, to flip a coin, is very interesting. You're prompted with the quote-unquote choice to press X, except in reality you are not free to not flip. If you never press X, the game doesn't progress, it just stays there. But if you do press X to flip, well, it always ends up heads. Or consider the scene in which Booker is prompted the choice to
bring us the girl and wipe away the debt.
You're free to walk around the room. The game even presents you with the option of pressing X to hand Elizabeth over, yet the only way to progress in the game is to press X and pick baby Elizabeth up.
You don't leave this room until you do.
Even though press X is an option that you can seemingly deny, the game proves that this choice is merely an illusion. You are fated to hand Elizabeth over. Whereas most games would just show this event in a cutscene, BioShock makes you press X. It forces you to recognize that you are, in fact, not free, and that anything that indicates otherwise is merely an illusion. Perhaps the only way to truly assert your freedom in the world of BioShock is to simply turn off the game.
Jump through this dimensional tear by clicking here to see the Wisecrack crew debate it out against matpat. Which game is more of an artistic masterpiece, The Last of Us or Pac-Man? Be sure to check out the Wisecrack channel page and subscribe for more smart stuff. And hey, help us win the debate by hopping over to that video and casting your vote for us.
That seems relatively unfair.
You're just afraid the Wisecrack army is going to take you down.
Well, at the end of the day, the choice of whether to click or not is theirs. Or is it? You see what I did there? That's a reference to the BioShock philosophy video we just did, where we're talking about free will and the ability to choose or not to choose in these sorts of games. It's the type of highbrow educational humor that you can expect here, both on Wisecrack and also on my channel. Well, no, my channel's just a lot of really bad puns. Self-deprecating humor. We get an occasional witty one in there. Nice musical theater reference every now and then. Anyway, they should click on over and subscribe. Subscribe to Wisecrack. Subscribe to